Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Paladins Qualifiers. We're in week 3 as we head over to North America. Last week, we saw Eager qualify into the final week's tournament. That'll be happening here in 2 weeks. But today we have a new set of cast. It's going to be myself, Rain Day, and Vox. How are you guys doing today, guys?
Doing great. Fantastic. Doing great. Thank you.
Rain Day, how's it been? This is your first adventures into casting, really, with Paladins. How you enjoying it so far?
I'm loving it, man. It's been great to be part of the early scene of Paladins. I think it's good for me to be early onto the scene and also add to this game as well. So it's been a nice little intro. I got to say, it's a good appetizer. I'm really looking forward to the main course.
Okay, and Vox, you as well. How's it been casting Paladins so far?
It's been very interesting. I feel like I've learned so much within the past few weeks of just getting to grips with this. I started off doing a little bit of smite casting, but with Paladins, it's a completely different world, and it's very exciting to see how the game is progressing from here.
All right, boys. So last week we did see Eager qualify as the 2nd seed coming out of North America. This week, though, we have some more teams trying to make it. Warpath as well. They were 2nd place last time. Break down the brackets for me in week 3.
So coming up in week 3, we're going to see potentially a lot of teams getting their chance again. We've had Warpath and Ronin, both teams that are playing this week, have pretty good showings, and they're on opposite sides of the bracket today. So we're going to see these two teams go at themselves and try and basically make sure that they have a chance to qualify and face Team Eager, knowing that the winner of this week will be faced off against Eager in the finals in week 5. We're going to have Warpath versus Trailer Park Boys and Mister, and I'm pretty sure Warpath is going to come out on top of that. And for the second game, the first game we'll be spectating, we're going to have Zenith Black versus Paladinos, which is a team we've got to know pretty well, right, Vox?
It is indeed. We've seen Paladinos in the first game of most sets through the past NA weeks. Going down to the bottom side of this upper bracket, we have Ronin versus Crayon Gods and Coaction versus Team Woogly. Team Woogly, a team which I definitely recognize the name of, present in week 1, if I remember correctly, but actually omitted from week 2. Don't know quite what was going on there, but it's nice to see these teams returning after a break.
Now, the difference between last week, I was just going to mention, is we're doing a double elimination this time instead of the single elimination, which most people are familiar with. Adonis, you want to take them through that?
Yeah, that's going to be pretty easy. It's going to be your normal teams are going to be advancing through the round, but if you fall, you're going to see loser of 1 and 2. So say Warpath versus Trailer Park Boys, it goes the way of Warpath. Trailer Park Boys are going to drop down to that bottom bracket. Then Zenith Black versus Paladinos. If Zenith Black ends up on top, that means Paladinos will then face off against Trailer Park Boys. So you take 1 loss, you still have a second chance to make your way into the finals.
Exactly.
Indeed. And we're going to mention that we will be following this losers bracket through most of today during our spectated matches. This will speed up the process a little bit for you all, make sure that we have some good viewing games, and also allow potentially a good team knocked out earlier on in the tournament, and we'll be able to follow them all the way through and see if they can make it back to the finals.
So, boys, first match casted, Zenith Black versus Paladinos. Give me a little breakdown, and what are your predictions for this one?
Well, I've seen Paladinos come pretty strong in these first couple of games. We've seen them kind of pick a lot of heavier teams, UG7 and Diago, liking characters like Grover and Fernando, which aren't necessarily in the meta, but we've seen it work. We haven't seen them be completely, I think, dismantled during it. And since this is their 3rd week, and I haven't really seen them get a chance to really prove themselves, I'm actually going to be going with Paladinos over Zenith Black today. It's just the caster's bias. I've been watching all of their games, but I think they might be able to pull out this one.
And Vox?
Now, I disagree with that. I'm going to say that Zenith Black are going to take this over Paladinos, whilst you make a good point in saying that the player Diago likes to run these more tanky champions, and we saw an excellent showing from, I think it was, let's see, it was Elven Path yesterday in the EU Week 3, demonstrating their incredible Fernando skill. But Zenith Black are reported to have a very good rate in scrims versus some of these other better teams. And as a result, I'm more inclined to give the game to them, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Wow, man, you got the insider info? Come on. I need that. Otherwise, how can I make... Come on, you know, scrims, I got to get that info.
All right, boys, all right. All right, well, we got both the casters on opposite ends of this, but we're going to be getting into game here shortly, so we're going to go to a quick break as we watch Zenith Black take on Paladinos.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, champions of the realm, to your first game in the NA qualifiers for week 3, seeing who the finalist is going to be to take on Team Eager, who's already secured their place last week. Today, we've got Paladinos on the left-hand side, and I'm going to be introducing their team and give it over to my co-commentator, Vox, for their opponents. We've got UG7 on Grok, we've got BrokenSlinky on Barrack, we've got Diago on Fernando, KonohasReaper on Pip, and Darkratos on that Cassie. Vox?
And on the other side of the bracket, of course, we do have Zenith Black. The first week, which will be spectating them throughout all this tournament, we have SwordCraft on Pip, Fray on Barrack, Graham on Darkratos, Reviling on Grok, and SnakeySnake on Eevee. So a considerable difference in team comps. Let's see how it all plays out, as the point has spawned at Waterfall first.
Yes, BrokenSlinky tries to get onto that point with a little bit of aggression, but now he's getting forced off by Fray, and there's a first blood on the side of Graham, taking out BrokenSlinky. Paladinos is a man down, and it also looks like KonohasReaper getting forced off the point and actually not being able to flank and escape. UG7 trying to find some space to go into the backside, and SwordCraft is getting down there, still not mattering. Enemies on the point, and this could be a very easy capture, Vox.
Now, I want to point out something in the difference between T-coms. We do see a Fernando on the side of Paladinos. We've mentioned this in previous weeks that Paladinos, Diago likes to run these tankier picks. But if you look at the specialty card they're running in the scoreboard, as Zenith Black do in fact capture the first capture point, Diago is running Incinerate 4, so he's not running that Evolve 4 where he has 60% extra maximum health. He's not running a tankier shield build. He's being a backline assassin or bruiser Fernando, and as we just saw demonstrated very well, Zenith Black got on the control point, they held it, and it was just impossible to get them off as Diago wasn't able to kind of get in there and interrupt them all.
Now, here's what we're going to see Diago do, and that's a great point. We're going to see Diago, as the pressure is kind of coming in from the left-hand side, a little bit of an engagement, but no one's stopping the payload. We're going to see Diago now try, with this payload push, become more effective, because as you've said, in the payload zones where he can kind of use the payload as cover and have his shield, he's that much more effective than in those kind of open capture spots, unless he's got a Barrack really supporting him in the right way.
But I would argue he's going to suffer at this point because of his build, and you can see that even though Diago is in front of the payload right now, and the payload has been stalled in the cliff top choke, the high ground advantage is going heavily in favor of Death and Taxes. They're up on all of the balconies, dropping shots down from above, despite Fray now being popped down by KonohasReaper, the Pip on the side of Paladinos, and the payload, with Diago the only player looking to stop it, is just being pushed further and further towards Paladinos' base.
Reviling gets a kill onto Diago. Now Darkratos looking to go down as well. Some nice shots from SnakeySnake, forcing him down with the AoE burst from Eevee's basic attacks, and the defense fails. Vox, we got to take a look at this. So if you're Fernando, right, this doesn't go well. You don't get it. His playstyle hasn't been working with this build. What does he need to do now? I mean, we talked about the back line. How does he go about making this effective and himself more effective on this team in this next capture point, since they're down 4-0?
Now, if we just can highlight Fernando's build real quickly, we'll see the build that they've got. Now, the main difference between Elven Path's very successful Fernando play and this Fernando build that we're seeing here is Incinerate 4 versus Evolve 4. Whilst I like Incinerate 4 and it does deal that dot damage, which can be very, very useful, I do feel that it makes Fernando a little bit too fragile and isn't quite good enough. But look at the burn card advantage that's come out on the side of...
oh, man.
Good grief. Compared to Paladinos, I mean, Zenith Black just have it easy. It's such a credit advantage.
And as if they weren't able to take down that Fernando easy enough, they've got 4 Wreckers on their side. It's going to give them twice the damage to shield. So Fernando, Barrack, they're going to be in trouble. And now Fray holding down that point like the holder of points Barrack is. He's just doing a great job. And now KonohasReaper getting taken out so quickly. Looks like Reviling is on to Darkratos as well. Cassie having no impact on this game so far. And to me, that's also something to note. I think Cassie, we saw be so effective, right, Vox, last week with the Megaton card, picking up Megaton 4 in that 1200 knockback, only opting to go for Megaton 2 this week and a 600 knockback. Significantly less impressive. What do you think about that?
It's tricky. You see, whilst the Megaton card can provide decent knockback and box enemies off around either a payload or a capture point and potentially allow you to either cap the point or maybe knock them away from the payload in order to mount a defense or a push, it's difficult to say that it works out better than perhaps the knockback coming off of Drogos, as Drogos can go up into the air and pop it over the top, as Graham actually picks up a double kill. I mean, Zenith Black are just pushing right into the base of Paladinos now. It's not looking good for them.
El Paladinos looking like they've got nowhere to run and don't even know where to run if they had an option to. SwordCraft, Reviling, and Fray doing their thing. SwordCraft picking up a kill on Diago. Now UG7's running for his life. Get me back to base, he's saying. I can't deal with this. Their team needs to group up. They are not doing what they need to do with this strategy. I understand the idea, the backline assassin, Fernando, but they need to initiate with that. They need to make sure that they can execute their strategy. It's not always about just having an idea. It's about going about and doing it, and we haven't seen El Paladinos really step up their gameplay yet, but hold that thought. UG7 stops in front of the payload. There's a little bit of a tussle here.
Very, very close to conversion right now. And look at the high ground advantage on the side of Zenith Black. Fray up the top there with a turret only just taken down, dropping shots down onto BrokenSlinky and UG7 left defending the payload. It has been stalled out momentarily, but as the rest of Zenith Black push around over the bridge, I mean, they're just forcing El Paladinos back into their base and spawn camping them entirely. Graham pops the Cursed Arm ultimate. He fires off some shots, but the barricade is good. SwordCraft still picking up the kill into BrokenSlinky, and UG7 left as the only defender on the side of El Paladinos.
Yeah, for me, it looks like this is going to be a GG right here in terms of this payload, and only 1 point left, so if this capture point goes the way of Zenith Black, that's game one. But one of the things that I found so, I think, devastating for their team is the Barrack right now is on a 13 streak, man. He is on a 13 streak. He is not dying. He's got an aggressor as well. This guy, with his shields, with his turret placement, is just off the mark. Fray is really showing us how to utilize Barrack extremely well in these engagements.
I agree with you there, but whilst Fray hasn't died, I think that's partially due to the fact that there's never a fight going on around the capture point. Fray is always able to get onto the capture point, stay there, and the rest of the team just kind of zone out with Fray taking pot shots at enemies that come close. And part of the reason I think this is happening is due to the lack of coordination and lack of appropriate grouping coming out from El Paladinos. Now you're noticing that they do have this Fernando, and one thing that we've seen before is Fernando being run alongside Cassie, who can act as a hyper carry under the right conditions and hold that thought as ultimates are being popped left and right on the capture point.
Double kill by Reviling onto Diago and KonohasReaper. What a nice ultimate there. Grok Tempest coming out, sealing the deal, but he goes down as well because he's still able to take damage through that ult. It does it quite a bit, but he's still vulnerable, much like an Ares and Smite. He's pulling you, try and kill him, and that's what they did here. It looks like BrokenSlinky and UG7 are getting aggressed on by by Graham there. I think I was trying to hand it off to you, Vox. But it looks like El Paladinos gets their first capture. What went right there? Oh, but the engagement's still going. Let's talk about this. Sorry, there's a nice freeze coming out from Eevee.
Here we go. Here's the spawn cam. This is what I suspected might happen. El Paladinos did take that capture point. They took control. But if you notice on the scoreboard, SwordCraft, Graham, SnakeySnake didn't die. Only 2 deaths on the side of Zenith Black during that engagement. Now, one thing that changed, which is very important during the difference between CB24 and CB25, these close beta patches, is that you now gain a point for a successful payload defense. So potentially, it's easier if Zenith Black don't think that they can take this capture point and maybe not have it as much of a balanced fight. If they're at a disadvantage, they can let El Paladinos capture that initial point and then just spawn camp El Paladinos as they're demonstrating their ability to do so. Right here as Fray nets a double kill.
Right, and I think that was a great change because you obviously want to be rewarded for a successful defense. I think that action should be rewarded, and I think they made a good change there. But now I see what you're saying. It wasn't necessarily that El Paladinos won this point. It's that a couple of the players decided, let's back off. Let's just defend. We get 1 point and we win. We don't need 2. Let's not die here and lose our burn cards, which I think Fray was thinking as well. And let's just go ahead and get ourselves safe, get ready for them to win it, and then spawn camp them. And wow, is it working? Oh my gosh.
If you're listening to the announcer pack, you can hear double kill, enemy double kill, double kill, double kill coming out through and through as the spawn position has shifted slightly and respawns are coming out for El Paladinos. They have 1 minute and 30 seconds left to try and break this spawn camp. And one of the things which you often hear in FPS games like this is spawn camping. If you've gotten yourself into it, you should be able to get yourself out of it. But it doesn't look like El Paladinos are able to do so. They're not grouping like they need to. We see Diago going into the enemy backline, but they're isolated and alone. Where's the rest of the team that you're meant to be shielding from all of this damage?
They're just picking off targets one after another, and it's like, okay, so we don't have it right. They're doing the right idea now. They're all waiting. They're about to go in together, but UG7's taking so much poke from the pip area damage. That 70% effect area is covering such a wide berth of location and also doing so much damage as well. I'm pretty sure he's running the Malady 4 build, and that is just going to hurt like heck, and he gets taken out. They can't even group up together before they go in. with
That was
Graham
a
getting
triple kill
into
from
Diago.
SnakeySnake, the Eevee on the side of Zenith Black right there, netting an annihilation as well. 15 killing blows for that Eevee, getting another kill again, just going ham inside the enemy's spawn, going to pick up a health pack, manage to survive as UG7's likely going to get taken down by Graham here as they try and chase down SnakeySnake. And at this point, it's just adding insult to injury. There's no way for El Paladinos to break that spawn camp. And another annihilation coming out, this time I think onto Graham as they net another kill.
Finally, SnakeySnake goes down as if, you know, just the solace for Diago is like, all right, I killed the Eevee who's been wrecking us. But Graham on a 22 streak, oh my God, make that 23, taking down BrokenSlinky there, who's looking like a BrokenSlinky at this point. This team is looking a little broken, not really able to get themselves together, although they finally do get the payload out of the capture point and on the way. It could stay in overtime, but are you expecting that, Vox?
I'm certainly not expecting that. There's only UG7 left. UG7 does pop Tempest, but gets taken down very quickly, and there's nobody apart from Diago, who's not even close enough to the payload to take it into overtime, left from the side of El Paladinos. The payload is destroyed. It's a successful defense for Zenith Black, and they take game one in a complete, no, not a complete sweep, rather, 9 points to 2. Only one capture point going to the side of El Paladinos.
So, you know, what I really looked at, and I want to talk to you, is that so they came in with a strategy. The idea was we're gonna build Fernando. We're not gonna utilize his character initial strength, which you would think is his shield. We're gonna go for catching people off guard in the back line. But the problem is they died before he even had a chance to get there, and he wasn't able to be as effective. So they pretty much had a character that's utilization, his whole point for being on the team, wasn't able to be achieved. And so essentially you're looking at 4 players doing their role instead of 5. So what would you like to see in terms of Fernando, or in terms of these picks, maybe adjust? We know they like to pick up Grover if Fernando's not working. Would you like to see a Grover instead if they want to go for the backline threat? Would you like to see Fernando just played a little differently? What are your thoughts?
I think that Grover would be annihilated more than Fernando does, because at least Fernando has that shield which they can use to block some of the incoming damage that Zenith Black can put out. Now, if we take a look at the scoreboard here, the one thing which I do want to highlight is that KonohasReaper, respectable damage score of 39,000 on that pip. Diago, low damage score, high deaths, but a total score of 1.1k. The rest of the team really starting to fall behind there. And I think part of this is due to the coordination which El Paladinos just didn't have going on to the capture point. They had one person going off looking for assassinations, which was Diago. They had Cassie on that Darkratos, not running alongside with Fernando as the flanker duo, which we saw Elven Path utilize well yesterday in EU. And the rest of the members just sort of break up and go mismatched onto the capture point. They didn't get there first and pop a barricade up in order to hold it. They tried to go on to an already defendable position, which Zenith Black was holding down well.
Absolutely. Do you think you should see them running? Do you think you want to see a coordinated duo striking out with Fernando? Do you want to see a company accompanied there, like some type of Cassie Fernando kind of going together, or maybe a Pip Fernando, rather than just the Fernando kind of seeking out on his own?
In all honesty, I'm going to say that the pick I want to see more than Cassie in this particular team comp is going to be Ruckus. I want to see a Gunship Ruckus come through, because Gunship Ruckus has the ability to chase down kills that get away from Fernando, as Fernando has a 30% movement speed reduction whilst firing that lance. As a result, running the Ruckus in combination, who also has that incredibly powerful Hexafire, whilst can be countered by the reversal of Graham on Androxus, is potentially going to decimate the team of rather squishy champions on the side of Zenith Black.
Exactly. If you try and focus and kill a Fernando, maybe if you can keep him in range, but you can't ignore Ruckus if he's shooting machine guns at you as well, and that could be a nice little pickup for them if they find that the Cassie wasn't working. It doesn't matter, because we'll wait and see what the teams decide to do themselves, and of course, nothing taken away from Team Zenith Black, who had a dominating performance in this Game 1 of the series. We'll be back with Game 2 in just a moment. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, Paladins, champions of the realm. This is Game 2 of your first set here in the North American qualifiers, trying to get that 100K ticket, baby, to DreamHack going on in Sweden. I'm excited to bring you this next game, which should be pretty interesting. On the side of El Paladinos, we've got UG7 on Grok, KonohasReaper onto Pip, BrokenSlinky onto Varric, Diago onto Fernando, and Darkratos onto Cassie. No changes there. But on the side of Zenith Black, we are seeing 2 changes, and some pretty interesting ones at that. We've got SwordCraft on Ying, we've got Graham on Androxus, Fray on Varric, Reviling on Grok, and McMahon 2508 on Kinessa. Fox, what do you make about those changes?
I mean, this just screams confidence to me rather than anything else in particular, because if you think about these particular picks, they've dropped a pip for one of these picks. They've got SwordCraft dropping that big AoE damage pip now onto the Ying, who's usually single target damage, harassment, and assassination, as well as a Kinessa, and you're running a Kinessa into a Fernando comp. I mean, that's a death threat, or that's rather a death wish in most games, but we'll see if it works out for them, and we'll see if Diago actually manages to get into the back line of Zenith Black and take down this Kinessa.
Now, this is an interesting start. Nice knockback there from Cassie, using that Megaton card to effect 600 knockback all the way there, and it looks like Team El Paladinos is still alive, and they're about to aggress onto the point. I like the way they all flanked together in order to go ahead and get rid of the pressure from SwordCraft, and Graham push him back, and now to KonohasReaper almost taking him down, and then got onto the point, but it looks like that was short-lived, and now they're both forced to retreat, and it looks like Zenith Black, even with this pick and these teams, is going to take the first objective point. Very, very interesting. I thought El Paladinos actually did a nice strategy there and held themselves off.
Well, just as you said, they were all grouping up. They got onto the capture point and then immediately spread out behind of the protective barricades from Fernando's shield and the barricade. We saw one pick off here, one pick off there, and then it's just an isolated pip left alone on the point, 1 versus 4, going, guys, where's my team? What happened to everybody? As Diago backs away entirely, and now it's up for Diago to try and stop this payload, but he's diving blind into 2 with a turret sitting behind him, dishing out damage, and it just doesn't seem to be the coordination we expect from some of the high-level teams, as Graham with the accursed arm assists Fray in getting a double kill there, picking up a third of his own, and Reviling gets another kill on top of that. UG7 the only one left alive.
Yeah, and Kinessa's really being untouched here. And, you know, when you pick a Kinessa, you know that she's going to get focused. The enemy team's going to say, all right, let's kill Kinessa, right? But she's doing a good job spacing herself with the transporter. And as the payload keeps pushing, she's adding some additional really good crossfire, some cover fire to make sure that people cannot approach as easily without taking some really damaging shots. She's throwing her mines in a great spot, slowing the enemies as UG7, BrokenSlinky, and Diago do hold the defense for a moment. Perhaps Shatter Illusion has something else to say about that. BrokenSlinky almost going down, and he does go down to SwordCraft. McMahon takes down Darkratos as well. Oh,
Such
man,
a
this
short
is looking
cooldown.
tough.
Such a short cooldown, such a large amount of damage coming out. Fray back in the fray, able to defend for just a moment. UG7, though, is going to be the last one on the payload looking to defend here. Going to be taken down by Fray once more. Fray netting a double kill right at the end there. And as you said, McMahon just sitting at the back on this Kinessa, way out of range of any of the champions on the side of El Paladinos, and dishing out an absolute ton of damage. We can see they're running critical hits 4. Successful shots made to the upper half of an enemy character will deal 40% increased damage. And whilst I mentioned that Fernando is really a good counter to Kinessa, as it's hard for Kinessa to get away from Fernando, and Fernando can really get up in her face. If the Fernando's not there, like, there's so many ledges on this Glacier Keep map that if Kinessa goes up onto one of them and stays out of reach of Fernando, unless you're running an Eevee or an Androxus, you're not going to catch her.
Yeah, and let's talk about that, because is Fernando really the best counter? Like, we'll have to look at that, because that transporter can put her up onto some ledges that Fernando just immediately, potentially on which ledge, can't chase after, and he's just done. The chase is over. So it's an interesting thought as the two teams set up for this next capture point, and try to see if they can go ahead. El Paladinos make themselves.
Here we go. Diago onto McMahon. McMahon able to get away with the transporter, though, able to jump straight back down to the point. The dome shield does go down on the point for a second, keeping all of Zenith Black safe.
Right, and that's the thing. In the isolated open territories, yes, Fernando will take down Kinessa eventually, but in these little nooks and crannies, in the crevices, in the ledges, she has some opportunities to go ahead and get away with this transporter.
Now she is under fire once more. She is under fire once more, though, from Diago, but Diago being brought very low. A triple kill coming out for, was that SwordCraft in that little engagement there?
Yeah, SwordCraft getting the triple, finishing off Diago was the thing Kinessa needed to make sure that she wasn't single target focused. And again, just having numbers is so important in this game, Vox. You know, we're seeing a lot of teams just be relatively even matched, but it's the team who connects with each other and really communicates and focuses their attention onto the right target. We're seeing them come out ahead. El Paladinos haven't really been able to really come close to the level of coordination Zenith Black have been able to show us in this last match.
Well, I did just see on that last capture point a nice little play coming out from Diago there. Now, Fernando's ultimate enables him to keep his teammates alive. He pops his ultimate. All teammates within a certain radius can't be reduced below 1500 health. And because of that, when the Tempest was popped by, let's see, it was by Tempest popped by Reviling on the side of Zenith Black, Not only did Diago, but also UG7 immune all of that otherwise lethal damage, helping keep his team alive. But unfortunately, other teammates weren't quite close enough to Fernando to kind of have that undying effect on them. And as a result, they were wiped out. And then just the numbers advantage went to Zenith Black.
Yeah, and when you have numbers, that's usually a win in this game right now because the numbers advantage is so huge. Really nice barricade, though, by BrokenSlinky, setting up his turret, but Graham is in the back line. They don't know it. He's got that damage coming out very strongly there, and he's almost taken down, but halfway, and that's not enough. He's still going to be shooting, adding onto that damage to the team. BrokenSlinky now forced to run away. Diago jumps up onto there, but the payload is still pushing, and this could be the end of El Paladinos, almost the end, actually, of El Paladinos' trip in this tournament so far, because this right here, conversion, means only 1 point away from them going home.
Once again, Graham up in the air in the backline, looking to drop shots onto the enemy. Did drop an accursed dome just a couple of moments ago, but a barricade immune most of that. But being a great distraction in the backline as Fray comes around in this weird position that we've seen, this backdoor position behind the rest of El Paladinos, just dropping shots behind this barricade onto BrokenSlinky. And with BrokenSlinky falling at last to Graham, netting a double kill at the end of that, the next payload conversion will go through, and Zenith Black lead 8 points to 0 over El Paladinos in this game 2 of this best of 3.
Yeah, it all comes down to this, to be honest. And the truth is, you know, I think communication is the thing that's happening with these squads because El Paladinos, you know, they had Fray and they had Graham come to the backside and they fired on them, I would say two to three times, taking down a significant portion of the defending squad, El Paladinos' health, and nobody said anything. I didn't even see Diago or Fernando turn around. I didn't see Darkratos and Cask. I didn't see them turn around. And so that to me just says they don't know where the fire's coming from. That to me says they don't have communication. And that is, I think, why they're losing this game right now.
Next capture point has spawned in Igloo. The midpoint burn card advantage once again heavily in favor of Zenith Black right here. But we could see a run back of the previous game if Zenith Black actually elect to give this capture point up in favor of saving their burn cards as Ultimates comes out. No, Ultimate comes out from Reviling there. The Grok on the side of Zenith Black. It looks like Zenith Black aren't willing to give this one up easily, but even if they're forced to, they could potentially win this game off another defense again.
Yeah, and I think at this point, when you just are not going in as a group, you're going to see it's just unbeatable. You cannot beat a team of people working together in this game without working together yourself. And if you're going in solo, which we're seeing a lot of them get picked off, and even if it's not their intention, they're just getting picked off. It's just kind of better grouping. Fray behind Darkratos, he doesn't even see him, but he's just running down to the point, and it's too late. El Paladinos not going on today, and it looks like Zenith Black are going to take this one and move on in the winner's bracket. Good job to them. I think they showcased themselves as a relatively top-tier team at this point, really putting El Paladinos away in a pretty convincing fashion.
The bracket results are through, and we'll cover those in just a moment. But before we move on, we'll take a look at the endgame scoreboard, and I think the numbers show it more than anything else. I mean, there were relatively few deaths in that game that we compared to what we see in most games, but due to the very, very fast nature and the short duration of that game, I mean, look at some of the players on this side of Zenith Black. The Knessa, Mike Manma, 2508. 0 deaths. That's phenomenal. Not the most damage. Graham actually taking that card with 40,000 that game, which is astonishing for the low number of deaths on the side of El Paladinos. But, I mean, 0 deaths on the Knessa. You've got to punish that pick.
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say. You have to punish the Knessa. If they pick Knessa, great. But you got to make her earn it. And they didn't make her earn it. They put some pressure on, but I don't think they had the team comp ready for that. I think you needed a high level of communication for that, to be honest. And it didn't look like El Paladinos had it together this week, and that's nothing against them. I just think Zenith Black had their game plan. They knew what they were doing. They were covering for each other much better, and they were able to go ahead and pull this one out. You know, Vox, looking at any of these cards, looking at any of the builds, does anything strike you before we head into the next set of this tournament?
Yes, actually, and it's rather than the builds and rather than the cards, I think it's the champion selection on the side of El Paladinos, and that is low vertical movement. They don't have any champions that can get up ledges besides Pip utilizing wall jump weightless when they actually need to try and assassinate some of these more mobile targets. Comparatively, you have Knessa, who can get up and down from ledges using her transporter Frisbee, you have Androxus, who has that air control, and you have Ying, who can also teleport up and down to ledges using her illusions. I just think that El Paladinos got kind of almost corralled into a low ground area whilst the rest of Zenith Black just dropped shots down from above, and there was nothing they could really do about it. There was no way they could respond, as they didn't have maybe the Eevee pick that could blink up, freeze, and start destroying the players that had overextended on the side of Zenith Black.
Yep, we're seeing a very consistent theme of this Androxus doing well, and the Ying pretty good too. We might be seeing mobility being very, very strong right now in this meta, and we'll see. I think an EV might have been a good pick for them, but they'll have to wait till next week if they come back to see if that works out in their favor. Zenith Black take this one, and we'll see you guys in this next round when we get that ready, coming up to your way just as soon as we can. We're doing our best in the back end here, and we will make sure to get you that next set coming up in just a bit.